Welcome in. I am here with my pal Eric. Eric, how you doing?
Doing stellar. Just prepping for Thanksgiving treats tomorrow. It'll be my first Thanksgiving all by myself, and I will be happily enjoying Chinese food on the couch watching football all day.
Well, there's worse ways to spend Thanksgiving. You
How you
could
doing,
just not have football.
Matt? How
I,
are you doing? Life is
I'm
good.
I'm doing good. I'll eat lots of turkey for you in your honor.
Oh,
I'll eat lots of turkey. Does that sound good?
do they do anything special in Texas for Thanksgiving?
Like, what do you mean?
I feel like everything's bigger in Texas, and they also have like weird like meats there, like hog. Like there's a lot of hog hunting.
You know, I'm sure there are some people that do something like that. My family is not one of them. We are the traditional. We have turkey, ham, and then a billion sides to go with it. So I ain't
Well,
complaining.
okay.
I ain't complaining. Let's kind of just review our flag plants of last week. The kind of funny one. Poor Kadarius Tony just cannot stay healthy, and unfortunately took a hamstring injury early in the game and looks like he is on track to do what he has done so far in his career, which is be hurt.
Yeah, he pulled the old switcheroo. Uh, Pulled it maybe harder than Zach Wilson in fooling all of us fantasy footballers into believing in the hype. And it turns out that Kadarius Toney is the Kadarius Toney that we all know from his previous years in career in football. I mean, this guy has immense talent. He has tons of interest around the league, and the Chiefs are dying to use him, but he's struggling to stay on the field. And unfortunately, this hamstring issue is the same type of thing that limited Debo early in his career. Debo has still had a prolific career once healthy, but unfortunately, I think if you're a Tony manager, you're looking at its peak a Debo career arc. So I think if you can sell high, go for it. Otherwise, you're in it for the long game.
Yeah, you're probably just in it for the long game right now. He's probably stuck on your bench wherever you have him, unfortunately. Let's see. Montgomery kind of just had a Montgomery week. Didn't really go off like I wanted him to, but
Saving it for the playoffs.
you know, maybe he'll just be my flag plant of the week again this week. Now that Justin Fields has a shoulder injury,
Got a little foreshadowing.
maybe. Devontae Smith, he had a pretty good game. Was nothing spectacular, but it was solid. And then was Sutton one of ours? Was Sutton on there?
I
Yeah,
think
Sutton was.
the ghost of Patrick Delianibus.
Oh,
He
okay.
wanted us to write down Cortland Sutton, and much like Pat's trivia score, Cortland Sutton was a dud. So
Well, it happens. Well, let's get into it. If you've joined us before, we've always kind of tried to talk about like the injuries as a whole. We're going to try a little different this week. We're going to talk about the game specific injuries as we go, which I think is going to work out pretty well. So our first games, we're going to start with the Turkey Day games, Eric, and we got the Bills versus Lions. How do you think Josh Allen's been looking with his UCL injury? And he hasn't really missed any time for it.
yeah, I mean, he definitely doesn't look like he's going to change the way that he plays his run game, which is really what makes Josh Allen so valuable to you as a fantasy manager. His run game has been just fine. His throwing production has been down, but certainly they're not keeping him to a pitch count. Last week, 2 weeks ago, when he played the Vikings and it went into overtime, I think he threw over 40 times and he didn't seem to have any issue getting the ball downfield or, making a dart throw to more of an intermediate route. I think if you're going to chalk up, his last 2 weeks of performance, it really might have just been the matchup and the defenses that he's played. So I think if I'm a Josh Allen manager, I'm apprehensively optimistic going forward, but it's definitely not showing in how he's playing the game. It's not giving me anything to worry about this far.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's looked like Josh Allen out there. There hasn't been anything that you see him grab at his elbow or anything after making a throw or come off and be getting treatments. And he seems like a tough guy. So, I mean, even if it is hurt or painful, he's not showing it at least. So I agree. I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about him throwing the ball to anyone. Um, Lions set to get some receiver help coming soon. DJ Chark set to return. He was doing pretty well for them before he went down for injury, right?
Yeah, I mean, DJ Shark has never really been a target hog type of player, but he has been that deep threat that they've been trying to get out of, ASRB. But I think that DJ Shark's return is really going to fill in the gap from Josh Reynolds' absence, and I think that's going to give a lot more of the valuable touches to Amon Ra at more intermediate routes. And it'll stretch the field a little bit more and hopefully open some things up for him. So I think DJ Shark's return is going to be really valuable to this offense. And if you have Amon Ra, then it's looking good for more productive weeks ahead.
Well, I have Amon Ra in a lot of leagues, so I'm glad to hear that. Josh Reynolds, questionable. He's been kind of questionable the past few weeks. He's had this back issue that he just can't seem to get rid of. I don't really know what to make of him. I mean, he was doing solid when he plays, but now with Shark returning, even if Reynolds returns, there's uh, a lot of balls to go around for that offense that it just probably all going to Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jamal Williams. So Swift, finally a full participant, and then he gets the great Buffalo defense. I hate DeAndre Swift this year. And it's not his fault. It just, I wish he would either be hurt or be healthy. I'm sick of this kind of in between thing he has going on where they're like, "Oh no, he's good to play. Here's six touches for you." I don't know. Do you feel the same about him?
Oh yeah, 2022 DeAndre Swift is not a nice person. I mean it's clear that he's struggling through a number of injuries, but you're right. I mean, he's only playing 30% of the snaps or thereabout, and the coach seems to just like toss us fantasy managers one touch for a touchdown just to make it a respectable play. But he's really not the DeAndre Swift that you drafted him to be, and I have him in a league. I was hoping that he would really help me in this playoff push, but I'm actually benching him over some other guys. I think probably I'll play Latavius Murray over him, and if that doesn't work out well for me, I blame it on DeAndre Swift. But that's what he's done to me this year.
No, I agree. I mean, you probably get to about 20 running backs before you're really like, okay, yeah, I can see maybe playing DeAndre Swift over this guy. But
Yeah,
I mean, he's really been touchdown dependent. And it just sucks when Jamal Williams is the one getting 3 touchdowns and
yeah,
not
yeah.
Swift.
And I think if there's any silver lining to this game, it's that it looks like the Lions are going to be without both of their guards this week, which is unfortunate for the Lions. But that means that their interior line play is going to be much more questionable. And this is already against a defensive Buffalo front that has been really good against running backs who as rushers, but they actually haven't been that good defending running backs who are more receivers, which does lend itself to DeAndre Swift's play style, or at least the way that they've divvied up the touches between him and Jamal Williams. So, I think if you're looking at this as a whole, you're probably saying, maybe Jamal Williams struggles a little bit more this week compared to other weeks, but I'm still not counting on DeAndre Swift to put up DeAndre Swift type numbers this week.
No, I agree. It's probably not playing him unless you're just absolutely desperate,
Yeah.
which was not something you thought at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Uh, And then last one for this game, really, but he probably won't be playing tomorrow, so I don't want people to get their hopes up. Jameson Williams started practicing this week. And so while he probably won't play on this short week, it's looking like he's either going to play week 13 or 14. So that's super exciting to get that electrifying rookie out on the field. I mean, he was their first round pick. And I'm super excited to see what he can do when you put him out there with Amon-Ra St. Brown. You have Amon-Ra doing those kind of short to medium routes, and then have Jameson Williams just trying to take the top off of defense. Like, that's going to be exciting. And the Lions offense will get better with Jameson Williams out there.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think the only thing that might temper expectations is just the reality of the injury. I mean, ACL injury is serious. We've seen it limit, transcendent athletes, once in a lifetime athletes like Saquon Barkley, for their first year back. Even Cortland Sutton, who we know is a good wide receiver, he has struggled in his return from ACL. So Jameson Williams, young guy, has plenty of time to reclaim the Jameson Williams production that we know he's capable of. But I think as a fantasy manager, you're hoping for the ceiling, but I would just temper expectations for this year.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, definitely, if he has a couple duds, don't go jumping ship on him,
Yeah,
because
don't panic.
he is a rookie receiver and he is coming off an ACL injury. So uh, now, if you get deep into next year and he's sucking, then that might be a different story. But
We'll
anyway,
chat.
we'll chat. We'll chat then. We'll chat then. Anyway, that was quite a bit for the Bills Lions. This next one, not quite as much. Giants Cowboys. Zeke, full participant, looked fairly good. I mean, definitely doesn't look as electrifying as Pollard, but I mean, Zeke's going to get his. Pollard's going to get his. That's just kind of the way it is. They're going to split. Zeke seems to get those goal line carries, so you're hoping for a couple touchdowns. Kind of the real important thing about this game going is Giants' entire O line seems to just be destroyed right now, which does not bode well for them playing the Cowboys defense tomorrow. And it also doesn't help that they don't have any receivers because Wandell tore his ACL. I mean, they just got shut. Saquon just got shut down last week. This could get ugly for the Giants tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I think this is going to be a rout, most likely. The only thing that the Giants have going for them this week is that their defense has been a formidable defense throughout the year, and I think that they're well coached. But they're up against a really good offense in the Cowboys, who are coming off of a big win against the Vikings. I think that the Cowboys are just getting healthier, whereas the Giants, they're really going in the opposite direction. Interesting feature on Saquon Barkley. I mean, this may be due to offensive line health, offensive line play, but his first 5 games of the year, his underlying metrics, juke rate, making men miss percentage, those were all outstanding. His last 5 weeks of the season have actually significantly declined. So maybe that's a measure of the workload that he's gotten this week. Maybe that's more of a contextual issue, like the health of the team. But Saquon Barkley, in terms of the player, has declined as the season has gone on. And this is going to be a game where he's virtually the only offensive weapon that the Giants have. The Cowboys, in terms of receivers, basically have to defend Darius Slayton, who's actually putting up a reasonable year 3 breakout. But if that's their biggest worry, aside from Saquon Barkley, then I think that the Cowboys are going to get up early and
You'll live.
yeah. I mean, I think that the Giants are just going to have to chuck the ball and start passing it. So
yeah, I'm sure the Cowboys are saying, yes, please let Darius Slayton try to beat us.
yeah,
Like, we'll take that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it on that game. I mean, I know it'll be close. It's a division rivalry, but it does not look good for the Giants tomorrow.
No, it does not.
And then the last Turkey Day game, Vikings versus Patriots. Justin Jefferson, or yeah, had a toe injury, right? That kind of left him limited last week. He's full participant today. Do you think it affected him last game? And we were just talking about how the Vikings got destroyed by the Cowboys last week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You definitely watched the game as a Cowboys fan, right?
Yeah, 2.5 quarters of it, and then I said, okay, this is 40-3. I'm gonna go back to Red Zone channel. Like,
Okay, so here's my impression, and you give me your take. But I felt like Justin Jefferson was actually smoking the cornerbacks that he was playing lots of times. I felt like the biggest issue was the Vikings' offensive line play and the health of their offensive line. And I think Michael Parsons was really just dominant as a defender, and he was getting to Kirk Cousins, who is not very mobile, before Kirk could really, find Justin Jefferson.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, Jefferson had a few plays early in the game where he seemed to get open and there was no one around him. And then Cowboys just started teeing off, and it's hard to when you're getting sacked within 2 seconds of snapping the ball. It's hard to do anything, which it's great as a Cowboys fan, but was not good for the Vikings. But and then apparently their left tackle's out again this week, or out
Yeah,
this week, Vikings.
yeah, and so really the Vikings are going to run up against the same type of problem. I mean, the Patriots have a very formidable defense, so I'm not sure what to expect out of this game. Um, but in terms of Justin Jefferson's health, I don't think it was the toe that limited him last
Yeah,
week.
no, I'd agree. I mean, maybe they just change up the game plan offensively a little bit. Maybe try to throw a few more screens or quick passes and um, go that way. Or maybe they just try to ride Dalvin Cook into the sunset and say, please take us to glory. But we'll see. I mean, it should be better for them this week, you would hope.
We'll see.
We'll see. That does it for the Turkey Day games. Sunday games. You mentioned him earlier. Broncos now for sure starting running back. Latavius Murray was limited with a wrist injury. Are you worried about his wrist?
No, no. I think that the Broncos are looking at Latavius Murray and saying, "You're all that we've got." So if Latavius Murray has anything wrong with his body on Wednesday, they're going to give him ample rest as a veteran. I'm not worried about this wrist injury. I think he's full go on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll have to see what that means for him as far as full go. I mean, uh, teams definitely aren't worried about Wilson right now beating them. So, I mean, what was it? Broncos would be 8-2 if they scored more than 18 points this year or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but the good news for Latavius Murray owners is that Carolina's run defense has been bottom quarter for the whole season. So I think that this could just be a volume-based game for Latavius Murray, and I could easily see him getting, 100 yards on the ground, and he's been a valid receiver in the games that he's played. So I mean, I think 100 plus yards total or all purpose is very reasonable for Latavius Murray this week.
Yeah, for sure. I see that. Hamler, non-participant today with a hamstring injury. Uh, Friendly reminder, he was coming off of major. Was it his ACL that he tore? Wasn't it like
Yeah,
ACL and hip?
yeah, I think it was like dislocated hip, which just like flew under the radar. But
Right.
you know,
And so,
this is what you worry about with athletes who are coming off of major
exactly.
injuries. Jameson Williams is, other, compensatory injuries like hamstring.
Exactly. So, Judy's ankle that he's still a non-participant to this week. I mean, we kind of talked about that last week. I don't think we really need to go into detail. I mean, just keep an eye out if he becomes a limited participant or a full
100%.
participant
Yep.
sometime this week. They placed Edmonds on IR, so that just goes to show it's just even more of the Latavius Murray show since they cut or waived Melvin Gordon.
They waved goodbye.
See ya. Thanks for fumbling so much this year. I wish they would
Yeah,
have done
wouldn't want
that.
to be that.
Yeah, I wish they would have done that. When Javante
Javante, yeah.
was healthy, but gosh. And then for the Panthers, one lonely injury to talk about. Terrace Marshall, limited participant today with the shoulder injury. He's actually been somewhat solid. I mean, you would have liked to see what he's doing now, doing as a rookie last year, and then have taken the step forward this year. But you'll take it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a player in real life, he's been a very valid wide receiver too. I think if you have him on your team, you're holding, until something else happens. But they're definitely going to get a quarterback upgrade next year. So I think that he's a good prospect going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's worth mentioning he's one of those players. If you were looking to sell him in a dynasty league right now, what you're going to get a third or a fourth, maybe multiple.
Yeah,
Hardly
I
anyone's
was
going to give you a second
like
for
you're
him, right?
hoping for a third, basically, and
Right.
maybe
And
someone offers a few little bits of change.
really, in this is my philosophy with dynasty: is if a player is ever you would only sell them for a third, you do not sell them just for a third because that third round pick does not have the upside that the player has. Um, Either you use that player as an extra little throw in on a trade, or you just hold them.
I vibe. I vibe. I mean, I think you have to look at like the situation. I mean, um is this Isaiah McKenzie on the Bills, who
Sure.
at 27 years old is getting some hype. Josh Allen is talking him up, and someone's offering you a third for him. You take that. But young players like Terrace Marshall, who is showing promise in their second season with a new head coach, that guy has a ceiling that's much higher than the third. So I agree with that in
That's
this
fair.
situation.
That's fair. That's what I kind of mean about if Isaiah McKenzie. I'd be like, can I package him for maybe an upgrade? Like I have him and maybe Terrace Marshall. Hey, you want to give me
Yeah.
someone for him? But
Chris
that's
Olave.
fair.
Yeah.
Um, Ravens and Jaguars. Lamar Jackson, non-participant today with a hip injury. Is this
No,
we're giving
no,
our quarterback just kind of a rest day and
no. I mean, honestly, I think this is real. If you watch the game from last week, Lamar Jackson was under duress the entire game against the Panthers, and I think that Russell Wilson is really going to struggle against the Panthers as well. But Lamar Jackson was doing everything he could to carry that offense and score some amount of points. They eventually did. But he was under duress, and I think that his body really took a lot of stress. So they're calling it a vague hip injury, but the head coach is already saying that he's going to be ready to roll on Sunday.
all right. Well, that's good for Lamar Jackson managers. Gus Edwards, limited participant today. Looking good for Edwards maybe going forward. That running back room is all beat up, but we'll kind of see how he progresses this week. Um, and then the Jags signed newly released Daryl Henderson from the Rams. Does that scare you at all for Travis Etienne?
I think that he's a very viable backup. So I think in the same way that Henderson was supposed to be, the number two back to Cam Akers, I think that he'll take about a quarter or a third of the work from Etienne. But I still think that Etienne has the highest ceiling. He's never really been a massive volume guy anyway, but the amount of work that Etienne gets, he can turn into tons of production for your fantasy team. So I think it doesn't really do much to Etienne. I think it does give some value to Henderson. This is a good fit for him.
Right. I mean, I pretty much, unless Etienne gets hurt, Henderson's just what he is right now, the backup to him.
Yeah.
Bucks Browns. Fournette had that hit pointer. Limited participant today. He's fighting for his job right now.
Yeah, which is so weird because I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like Tom Brady has to be feeling desperate to really push this team into a position where they can go on a legitimate Super Bowl run. And, Tom Brady trusts his veterans. He trusts guys like Gronkowski, Antonio Brown. Like, he always seems to find that veteran offensive weapon and just turn them into gold. So I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but there seems to be a real changing of the guard. And, I think it's starting to look like it's Rachaad White's show.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, and Fournette's was at least decent last year. He's been fairly decent this year when he does play. I mean, just I guess they're looking for a little bit more spark in that offense rather than
A little zest.
little zest.
I don't know. It's a weird offense, and I think it's a weird year for a lot of these traditionally good offenses.
Yeah. Let's just move to that's really the only thing for the Bucks.
Yeah.
I mean, besides Tom Brady's 45 years old, but he's
45-year-old bachelor.
looking. Oh, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true. Lots of money there.
Hide your kids, hide your wife.
That's what they're doing from him.
We'll edit this out. This whole segment. We'll just edit it out.
Just right here.
And from there. All right.
All right. But Amari Cooper, non-participant today, but just resting. I mean, he's had quite a good year. I was looking earlier. He's a top 10 receiver.
Yeah, honestly, I think if you're looking for a blue collar asset to add to your team when you're looking to go on a playoff run, it's Amari Cooper. I mean, he's been playing exceptionally well with Jacoby Brissett. The latter quarter of the season, when you're in fantasy playoffs, he faces really soft defenses, and that's when Deshaun Watson is coming back. So he's my primary target across a number of leagues to capture, if possible, because he doesn't hold the name value of a young name like Jalen Waddle, who might be harder to get onto your roster, or even a Stephon Diggs. But Cooper is playing exceptionally well this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. I mean, he's been playing exceptionally well for a few years now.
Yeah, who knew? He's worth more than a fifth.
That hurts. Anyway, Njoku, non-participant today. He returned last week, didn't he? But he didn't really look 100%.
Yeah, it does. He's going the way of Mike Williams. This year, those high ankle sprains are just really tough to come back
That's
from.
what we've talked about that, and we'll talk about that more with Mike Williams in a minute. But those high ankle sprains are just not easy to come back from for pretty much any player. Bengals versus Titans. Mixon, concussion, non-participant today. Does not look good for him. Looks very good for Samaje Perine this week.
I'd say so. I mean, this guy right now could take your middling team with tons of fab money to definitely getting pushed into the playoffs if you were able to grab him off the waiver wire. So I think this is definitely a Samaje Perine week. The only trouble is that the Titans have a really stellar run defense. So this they might try and give Samaje Perine some volume, but I think ultimately they might end up just passing the ball, especially with Ja'Marr Chase coming back.
But he's a good pass catching back.
Very true.
So we'll see about him. I mean, there's one thing we've learned about the concussions this year. Almost automatic 1 week missed, but especially when they're non-participants on Wednesday. I don't think we've seen one be a non-participant on Wednesday and participate so far this year, at least ever since the Tua debacle.
Yeah, we're getting some trends.
So Chris Evans, another back there, limited participant today. He's just going to be kind of the backup for Perine this week. And then Chase, the before mentioned Ja'Marr Chase, might be back this week. He's finally off the crutches. He was a limited participant. He's saying he'll play. The team's kind of looking like he'll play. I know from my standpoint, I'm a little worried that he was on crutches so long
Yeah.
And then they're saying, "Oh, yeah, nope, he's good to go. He's off
Or
the
even
crutches."
like so recently, like how do you go
Right.
from crutches to sprinting and smoking, like an NFL
Exactly.
defensive back? Like what?
That whole thing just doesn't make sense to me. And
Unless, of course, you're just the head coach who's, throwing smoke and trying to have the Titans, create a game plan that's non-existent.
that's almost what it seems more to me. And not necessarily from maybe Jamar Chase plays. I'm not convinced he was on crutches as long as he was.
Mm.
And
Yeah, tough to tell.
I mean, that's just pure speculation on my part. But um, in my mind, it's hard to see him being on crutches for what, a month, and then,
Yeah.
oh nope, I'm good to play now.
Are you if he's starting and he logs a couple full practices, are you playing him?
Oh, I mean, if Jamar Chase is playing, I'm playing Jamar Chase.
Are
Like
you
I'm
playing
not.
him like if you had an option, Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson, you play Justin Jefferson?
Well, yeah, I'm playing Jefferson in that case, but that's probably not the scenario you're left with. Um,
Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen?
Probably, I would probably play Jamar over Keenan, but I would definitely be trying to find them both into it. I think a bigger question would be like Jamar Chase over Josh Palmer
Ooh.
with
Ooh.
with Mike Williams and his re-aggravated ankle injury and all
Wow.
that. I think that's a lot closer to the scenario you'll be in.
I'd go Palmer.
Really,
Oh yeah. Palmer has been playing well. He
he
is
has been
like
playing well.
blue collar name, but this dude has been balling out.
He really has. He's actually going to probably lead me to the playoffs in a couple leagues. So,
I'm
um,
jealous.
yeah, I'm liking him. I'm liking him. Anyway, let's move on to the Falcons and Commanders. Big injury of the week. Kyle Pitts tore his MCL, and I just want to take a moment to mention this is why I don't want to name names, but there's a lot of Twitter doctors that try to be the first with, well, I saw this on the film and he tore everything in his knee, and they're trying to be first about it without actually trying to like analyze and say, hey, this is what it looks like, but we really need to wait to see what the MRI and everything says. And especially with him, when there was a lot more info afterwards that, yes, if you watch just the injury, it doesn't look great. But then with the information of he jogged off the field after it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw some people trying to say, well, he probably just tore his ACL, PCL, everything. I'm like, okay, he may have, but in my experience, I've never really seen or had someone jog off the field after having a catastrophic knee injury like some people were trying to say he had.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I feel like, in this, niche of fantasy football, the injury, health world, it's the folks who speak the loudest, the earliest are the ones who often have no clue what the heck they're talking about. I mean, like you look at that and you look at that hit and you think the worst, but if you really know what you're talking about, you're going to wait and gather information. And you would have seen that this guy's jogging off the field. You would
Right.
have, really gathered information before you started to make a big claim like a lot of people were doing. And
I mean,
really, when you make big claims like that, you're just fear mongering for clicks.
right. I mean, I saw people saying that he basically tore every ligament in his knee, and I'm like, you're not jogging off the field.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So
but
just, just wait, gather some
just
information.
wait. Just say, hey, this didn't look good. Let's see what the
Yeah.
MRI
Yeah.
says. I mean, and a torn MCL is still not good. That's still a significant knee injury that'll probably end his season.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah.
but
Sure.
especially if he's getting surgery on it. But like, why are we trying to jump to conclusions on oh he's going to have a year of rehab from
Yeah.
this 5 second clip?
Does this I know that you're a Pitts owner in a league that we're in together. Does this
Unfortunately, yes.
alter does this alter your valuation of him long term as a dynasty manager?
Long term, no. However, now luckily in that league, I'm not really in the playoff. I mean, hunt. I guess I technically am, but I'm not really trying to be. Um, but now, say if I was a contending team that had Kyle Pitts, I would probably be trying to sell him for maybe a higher tier wide receiver or maybe like a Pat Fryermuth plus a receiver just to help me with that playoff push.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's tricky. I mean, this is someone who everyone thought was going to break out this year, and maybe it was Mariota, maybe it was the head coach, but this is definitely longer than folks were hoping
Hmm.
um, for when they drafted Kyle Pitts as early as they did.
Yeah. And so I think next year it'll be the excitement all over because I doubt they roll with Mariota next year. I think they were going to take a quarterback in the draft and
Mm.
everyone will get excited. And then Kyle Pitts will be back on that radar. And
Jimmy G,
hey, I'd be okay with Jimmy G. We've seen
yeah,
what he does with George Kittle.
yeah, this dude can
So
ball.
I just don't want that running QB anymore where they're only throwing it 15 times a game. That just kills
Yeah,
you.
not good, Bob.
Not good. Not good. Anyway, let's move on. Carson Wentz still on IR. Your Commanders seem to love Heineke. So
Yeah,
who does win?
they
Who wins? Like,
yeah, I think that they like his grit. I think that he has the locker room 100%. I don't think that we see any more of Wentz on the season. We have no incentive to play Wentz. He's not winning us games like Heineke is. If we play Wentz, I think we have to give up a second round pick instead of a third round pick as a part of the condition of the trade. So unfortunately, I think this is really not good for Wentz's career, but Heineke can play. And I think that this is going to be a really solid game for our offense. Our defense has been getting a lot better in the last couple of games. And now they have one less guy with Pitts injured to defend. So I think it'll be pretty easy to bracket the rookie Drake London. Cordell Patterson really is going to be our struggling point since we don't do that well with receiving running backs. And with the Pitts injury, I mean, they could easily use Cordell Patterson as a wide receiver. They have done this in the past functionally. So, I think when it comes to who to expect a boom game from in here, I think it's going to be Cordell Patterson. But I think that to answer your question with Heineke, it's going to be Heineke rest of season for sure.
yeah, I like Heineke. He's exciting, and sometimes that matters. That
Yeah,
matters.
this is a sport. It's for entertainment.
It is for
He's
entertainment.
exciting.
And quite frankly, the Commanders need someone to take their mind off of all the crap that's going on with their owner.
We need a likable person in the franchise.
Yeah. So,
So,
so, so hopefully Heineke doesn't have any skeletons in his closet that are going to come out because that just might implode the Commanders.
yeah, let's just not ask questions. We're good.
Okay. And then Dotson came off that hamstring injury. He looked, I mean, pretty good. I thought.
Yeah, I mean, as a fantasy manager, he did not deliver. But functionally, he looked fine. He's not Heineke's favorite target. He was very clearly Wentz's favorite target. And then once Heineke took over, McLaurin came back onto the picture. So to me, it looks like they're easing Dotson back in from a pretty severe hamstring injury. I think he had over a month off. He was on a pretty significant snap count limitation these last 2 weeks. Relative to how he started the year. So I do think he'll be more involved. I think that there are better weeks ahead, but this is, McLaurin's team right now. So I don't think Dotson is going to be very strong going forward.
Yeah, no, I agree with the fantasy aspect. As far as the injury goes, I think anytime the hamstring injury, especially that significant of one, it's not necessarily the fantasy points they end up. It's did they re-aggravate it in the game, and he didn't, which is great.
For sure. Yeah, no, you're so right. I mean, like we see tons of wide receivers who just struggle to get away from hamstring injuries. Russell Gage was a hot name to start the season, and we haven't seen a lick of him because of his hamstring injury. So I
Keenan
think you're
Allen
right.
all year just
Yeah, you're right.
struggled to come
Especially with
back.
a rookie. You know,
Yeah,
you want these guys just to move on from any soft tissue injuries early in their career and just put it in the past. And you're
yeah,
getting that so far.
for sure. Moving on, Texans versus Dolphins. Only one name, and I'm sure people could guess it. Mostert, limited today with a knee injury. I didn't really find any information on what it is. I don't know if it's just soreness from
I think it's rest.
that.
I, I
That's
think it's
fine.
rest.
Yeah. But I'm not really worried about him playing this week, and they're playing the Texans that are historically bad against the run right now.
Yeah. Well, they kind of are playing against themselves because only they can defeat themselves in this game. The
I
Texans
mean,
have no chance.
you mean, but isn't it Case Keenum's going to start for the Texans this week? And
Uh, Kyle Allen, I think.
oh, Kyle Allen, that's right. My
Yeah, Kyle
bad. Case
Allen.
Keenum's Buffalo.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got my
The ghost
backup
of
QBs mixed up.
the ghost of Case Keenum was Richmond's grab of the week.
That's right. Our good friend Kyle Allen is gonna be.
R.I.P. I think he's doing good.
He's doing good.
But yeah, I think in terms of Mostert, this to me this reads like a veteran rest day. But I wouldn't be worried. I mean, folks are talking about Jeff Wilson taking over the backfield, but the Dolphins are going to dominate the Texans. They're going to get up early and they're just going to be running out the clock. And I think their head coach loves using both running backs, much like they have used both running backs in San Francisco. Even though Jeff Wilson's getting the volume, Mostert's getting his too.
Yeah, fire up anybody you got going against the Texans this week on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Bears versus Jets. Uh, Notable that Fields non-throwing shoulder. You said you were seeing stuff that it's AC joint.
Mm-hmm.
I saw some stuff that they said separated shoulder, which could mean a couple different things. I took it as dislocated or subluxated shoulder. Now, the good news is non-throwing shoulder, so it's not going to affect his throwing. Bad news is Fields' fantasy value doesn't really come from his throwing. It comes from his running. And if he does play, which seems like a big if to me, at least as far as this week goes, I don't see him running as much, which scares me as a fantasy owner.
Yeah, unfortunately, I really think that the boom weeks from Justin Fields are likely in the past. I mean, the Jets have a good defense, and the way that the Bears have unlocked Justin Fields is, using his mobility. They are rolling the pocket to the sidelines and allowing Justin Fields to choose to run or make the throw. And it's working amazingly for him. But now he has a contact driven injury, and this is fresh. So I think that if he plays, they will likely give him, a painkiller, but he'll be struggling through it. You just might not see as many designed runs, and I think you're right. That's going to limit his fantasy production. But really, the Bears as a team, like, do they have any incentive to win? I don't
They
think
don't.
so.
They don't. I mean, they don't have incentive to win. They don't have incentive to get him out there and get injured more. The only way I could, in my mind, comprehend it is, well, now he knows he has this shoulder injury and can't really run. Let's have a game where he can really only throw it and see how he is as a pocket passer.
Yeah, it just
but I
seems
don't like that.
so.
I don't like
Yeah.
it. I'm just trying to rationalize it a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
So, and then Mike White taking over for the Cougar Hunter.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole thing, that seems weird that they wouldn't put Joe Flacco out there. That feels like a money decision with Joe Flacco's contract.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen the ins and outs of it. That's exciting for Mike White though to see
Yeah.
what he can do. I mean, he did good last year in his little limited run.
Yeah, I think yeah. I mean, I think he's gonna struggle in this game, but they've let him just unleash. He's thrown for over 40 times, I think, in the 2 times that he's gotten full starts. So
Sure.
who knows?
I don't know. We'll see. I'm probably not playing him anywhere, but I'll be checking it out. It'll be exciting.
Yeah, I'll red zone it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll have to see how much they're in the red zone, but
Yeah, yeah, they might never
they
come
are
back.
playing the Bears defense, which isn't that great. So,
Yeah, we'll see.
Chargers versus Cardinals. Kyler finally healthy, which I take to mean that he has. I don't even know how the levels work in Call of Duty anymore, but he's hit the max level and doesn't need to take the time off to play Call of Duty anymore, which is good for him. You know, back to football now. But let's move on. Mike Williams re-aggravated his ankle injury. I mean, it was a high ankle. We've seen it. Um, he tried to. Did he make the catch? I don't remember. I was watching the game. I think he made the catch, which was an
Uh,
outstanding play on the sideline.
yeah.
And then it just kind of went the wrong direction just a little bit, and he was donezo for the game after that. And then Josh Palmer went bananas.
As he does.
So
Yeah.
as he does, that's just kind of one of those things. If either Keenan or Mike Williams is out, Josh Palmer is all, fire him up. But when they're out there, it's kind of scary to try to play him.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust him. And, I personally think that Mike Williams is kaput for a lot of this season. I mean, I think he will return, but his production and reliability in terms of re-aggravation are going to be really risky. So he's not a name that I'm trusting going forward. And if I can trade him, in redraft or dynasty, even, it depends on what you have going for you, but then I would.
Yeah, I would too, but then again, I'm not a big Mike Williams guy, so I don't really have any shares
I have none. Yeah.
of him. So, take my opinion with a grain of salt. So, Keenan Allen looked good after his hamstring injury. He
hmm
was making plays.
hmm
So, looks like it's finally behind him, but as we've said, you can't really ever be too sure with these
Yeah.
hamstring injuries, and
Yeah.
especially one that he's re-aggravated at least once this year. I think maybe twice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he'll always be at risk of that going forward for the rest of the season, but he looked pretty good for, how he played.
So Gerald Everett's got his groin injury. Gerald
Yeah.
Everett has his groin. good for him.
He's been
Uh,
diagnosed with a groin.
um, uh, I'm just thinking because in my mind I've had soccer players, like female soccer players before. And I'm
Mm.
like, okay, you pulled your groin. And they're like, but I don't have one of those. I'm a girl. I'm like, not
Let's read a book.
this. Let's go back to anatomy class.
Yeah.
Anyway, if he plays, it's exciting for him because Cardinals suck against the tight end position.
Yeah, that would be huge. But I don't, my guess is he wouldn't. This is a tough injury to just, you want to see a number of full practices in a row, and
Yeah,
he's not lining that up right now, so
for
it doesn't
sure.
bode well.
For sure. And then Cardinals slot position, Rondell, speaking of groin injuries, he's got a groin injury. And unfortunately, Dortch has a thumb injury, and they were both non participants today. So looking like they need Marquise Brown back.
Yeah, I think it sounds like he will be back, but on a snap count. So really, if you're a fantasy manager, you're just banking on total volume for D-Hop, and frankly, he's capable of that. So we'll see.
Yeah. And then Arizona O-line just banged up, left tackle not participating. We'll see how that goes, but also worth noting, Chargers are also poo-poo versus the run, just not as bad as Houston.
Poo-poo versus the run.
So maybe a big James Conner week coming this week. Raiders versus Seahawks, no injuries, at least as of this recording. Worth noting, second or third, depending on where you look, highest implied total of the week, and with an over/under of 47.5, and the Seahawks with a minus 3.5 spread. So maybe a good game to target there in DFS that might kind of go under the radar from people because it's
Yeah,
not really big name teams.
Yeah, I would load up and I would go for the blue collar guys because anyone can score in this game.
And they will probably be scoring often. But as we know, it's also the NFL, and sometimes those turn into those 6-3 slugouts.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Speaking of slugouts, at least this will be a one-way slugout. Rams versus Chiefs. Rams, we really need to take a moment to talk about this Stafford possible concussion, or neck injury. Apparently, he left the game with a neck injury after taking a weird hit and had numbness in his legs. Now, obviously, that's not good. That means you're having a nerve injury somewhere. But it's also worth noting that we don't know the extent of that. You say numbness in legs. Is that for sure I can't feel my legs at all? Or is that I'm feeling a little tingle in my legs?
Yeah, and frankly, like when you talk about neck injuries, you usually experience numbness in your arms because
Right.
that's just where the nerves come from. Lower back spinal cord injury would obviously
Legs.
give you legs, right?
Exactly.
That's basic anatomy. So I think you're right to be curious about that report, but I think it's really challenging to see, Matt Stafford be out with a concussion and then have this strange report that coincides with him being out already on a Wednesday due to a neck strain. So clearly they're seeing something that they don't like, that they're concerned about. They're a literal dumpster fire. I think bottom of the league. I would rather bet on the Texans, than the Rams going forward. I think in a few instances, but
don't disagree.
yeah, but I'll tell you, like I think all of this brings into question Stafford's availability rest of season, where this team is not playing for anything. They are not competitive. Cooper Kupp is out. They're just decimating their running backs. Their greatest weapon on offense is Allen Robinson, it seems like, or Tyler Higbee, if you will. And if you've been listening to Matt Stafford's wife's podcast, I mean, she's been frantic these last couple of weeks, crying and really like advocating for Stafford to be out for the rest of the season. So I think that creates a lot of internal pressure on Matt Stafford not to play. We know Stafford to be an athlete who has pushed through a lot of injuries in his career, but he's getting older and he now has a Super Bowl under his belt. He has that to his namesake. So I think there's a lot of smoke developing that would just put me in a greater concern for a contending team if I was relying on Matt Stafford going forward.
No, 100%. And I mean, I think this worst case scenario could be threatening career. I mean, that's the range of outcomes here. I mean, especially when you're talking about a potential neck injury that he was feeling numbness in his body. That brings into question, does a team let him play? And I mean, I know this isn't like the extent of Stafford, but oh, bless me, I'm forgetting the rookie's name this year that uh, was supposed to be this amazing prospect, but then had the neck injury that basically none of the teams wanted to touch him.
Ooh, Justin Ross.
That's it, Justin
Yeah,
Ross.
yeah,
Um, and so, I mean, obviously, he's not. It's a different position, and he was incoming rookie, not a seasoned veteran. But you can see this when these players have a potential life-altering injury that if you take a hit, that the teams just don't want to take the responsibility for putting them back out there.
yeah. I'm totally with you, and it's becoming more and more popular in this league to quit while you're ahead.
Sure.
But I'm just now remembering, didn't Peyton Manning like break his neck and then have surgery, and he came back and he was totally like
Peyton
a rock
Manning,
star?
I think, had the same. I want to maybe the same thing, Justin Ross. I'm not 100% sure on that. He had some type of neck surgery that even then it was questionable if he would be
Yeah,
cleared to play.
yeah, it's
And
not good. I think that's what we know for sure is that there's
yeah,
a lot of not good signs coming out of Stafford's camp. So
sure, sure. Anyway, let's move on. Higby, limited participant with a knee injury today. Um, not super concerned. Another concussion, Juju, worth mentioning, full participant today. And we were talking about concussion trends. We've seen when they're a full participant on Wednesday, they be playing. So it looks like Juju's returning this week, which is good because that receiving core is actually kind of banged up too.
yeah, I think this is going to be a big Juju game. He was really developing a good rapport with Mahomes prior to the concussion. He's gotten a ton of volume actually on that offense, and this is valuable targets from Pat Mahomes. I think Sky Moore likely maintains a role on the offense with Tony out, but it won't. I don't think it'll be as high as what we saw last week.
Yeah, because Tony's hamstring went kerplunk again
Yeah,
this last week, which just goes to show those soft tissue injuries. It's just they recur. They recur.
yeah. I think anytime you see a guy out for a month plus because of hamstring, you immediately have to wonder, okay, is this a career thing? And for a lot of people, it is.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, they just always come back. And speaking of hamstring injuries, let's move on to Saints and 49ers. There's only one worth mentioning. Debo was limited today with apparent hamstring concerns. So I don't know how you're. I mean, we've talked about Debo quite a bit with his hamstring issues since we've been doing this. I mean, does this concern you
I'd say
going
so.
forward?
Yeah, I mean, knowing his entire history, NFL and collegiate, this to me says that there was enough problem present for them to say, "Wow, we better be careful with Debo because we want him available for our inevitable playoff push." So I think they're being really cautious. That's what they have to do with Debo. He got in a limited practice. That's a good signal. But I think it's a little spark that could grow this week. He could aggravate it. I think it's enough to say like there's a chink in the armor. Something is getting overstressed, something is asking for rest, and you don't want to see that with a hamstring injury. And we've seen Debo miss significant time with these hamstring
Yeah,
injuries.
I think where I'm at with Debo, because I have him in quite a few leagues, and I love him as a player, but this kind of nagging hamstring stuff is finally just. I think I've hit my breaking point with it, so I'm trying to write him out for this year, and I think I'm going to be doing whatever I can to get him off my teams in the off season.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I sold my one share last year. I felt like his production was just unsustainable, and so much of it was from his rushing. Um, And I'm happy with that. I think that Ayuk is really growing as an athlete. He had all the camp hype,
Hmm.
and he's clearly getting the red zone targets. He's dominating in the red zone in terms of targets for this
Hmm.
offense. So I think it's Ayuk has a large role, and it's growing. Kittle is becoming reliable. They're not using him to block as much, and now you have the receiving prowess of Christian McCaffrey. Debo will always be a weapon, but I think if you're looking for wide receiver 2 overall, like you saw a few years ago, I think that's probably out of the picture for Debo.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, Packers versus Eagles. Dobbs still not participating with his high ankle sprain. Do you think the touchdown machine, Christian Watson, can keep it going?
I think he's developed some great rapport from Aaron Rodgers, and there's a lot of narrative out there that Rodgers struggles to trust rookie wide receivers, and maybe he's doing that out of necessity this year because of his team's refusal to make any moves in his favor.
I
But
mean,
like frankly,
does
but
Aaron Rodgers keep playing after this year?
yeah, for sure. I mean, he just signed this mega deal. Like he's in it for the cash, I think, and
That's fair.
we'll see. But I think 5 touchdowns in 2 weeks from Christian Watson is ridiculous. We know touchdowns not to be a sticky metric, meaning they're somewhat random and not reliable from week to week. So I think that this is Christian Watson's peak. If you're a dynasty owner, sell him at his peak. That would be my best advice. If you're a redraft owner, ride the wave until it's over.
Yeah, that's fair. And I'm just seeing this. You wrote in our show notes, Aaron Rodgers, he's been playing with a broken thumb.
Yeah, I think he just kind of like said that today at some point. Since week 5, he's been playing with a broken thumb. But I when I saw that, I was like, oh, that might explain why Aaron Rodgers has not been
Hasn't been
like,
Aaron Rodgers.
yeah. But I looked at his stats week to week, and especially him after week 5, and frankly, like they're all the same. So I think that this is just Aaron Rodgers struggling in his own way. Maybe it's the receiving core, maybe it's him being older, but well, I don't know if this is much to talk about, but it's definitely interesting as an athlete who relies on his hands.
Yeah. Tough to throw with a broken thumb.
You would think.
So that's just how good he is, I guess. And then your boy on the Monday night game, the only
Hmm.
one I really saw, Jaylen Warren, another hamstring injury.
Yeah, not good. And I think if you're a Najee manager, you're rejoicing because
Yeah.
everything leading up to the Jaylen Warren hamstring injury was trending towards somewhat of a washed up Zeke and Tony Pollard situation
Yeah.
where Zeke is going to get his, he is very likely going to get a touchdown, but he's not the volume based king that you drafted him for.
Yep.
And Jaylen Warren was stealing touches, stealing receiving touches, but all of those are going to Najee Harris now. I think Najee's route involvement jumped to like 94% last week, which is huge.
Oh yeah,
So
because they don't want Benny Snell out there.
yeah, no, anything but Benny Snell.
Like Jesus, like
Benny Smell. Um,
ah,
but yeah, so Jaylen Warren, tough break, but this is Najee Harris going forward, and
yeah,
it's
that
really
definitely
big.
sucks for a rookie that was ascending, like
Yeah,
to get this hamstring injury. And as we've discussed with a number of players so far, they can be nagging, and so
yeah.
um, it's unfortunate for him. Well, Eric, we made it through all the games, and I think this was our longest show of the year. So
We did it.
we did it. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Uh, um, do you have a flag plant this week?
Yes, my flag plant of the week is certifiably Latavius Murray. I'm playing him as my RB2 in a dynasty league over DeAndre Swift. This is purely a volume-based play, but Latavius Murray, I think there's a lot to be said about them releasing Melvin Gordon, knowing that their third string running back behind Melvin Gordon apparently was also going to be out for a sustained period of time. They have lots of trust in Latavius Murray. And this is a Carolina defense that has been getting run all over all season. So Latavius Murray, flag plant of the week.
I like it. You know what? I'm doubling up on David Montgomery.
Double down.
Double or nothing. Khalil Herbert's still on IR with his hip issue. Their RB1 now has a shoulder issue and can't be running as much. We've seen that their receiving core isn't all that great. They've been better lately, but isn't all that great. David Montgomery, kind of the same reasons for Latavius Murray. He's got to get all the touches this week. So I'm firing up David Montgomery. Even though the Jets defense is pretty stout, I think they got to get something from him this week.
Yeah.
And if I don't see it this week, I'm going to be worried.
Yeah. Until the playoffs when he just erupts in true Demont style. But I like the pick.
So, well, that just about does it. Thank you for joining me, Eric. This was fun.
Yeah. Thanks for keeping me company on this holiday.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and your wife.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you. Enjoy your Chinese food and football.
Yeah, thank you. And this just in, Richmond texted me. He wants his flag plant of the week to be Devin Duvernay. So that we will hold him accountable to Devin Duvernay when he returns. We'll see how it goes.
Oh, poor Richmond. That's what he gets for being at the bar instead of here. Hold on. We got to write it in. Duvernay. I actually played Duvernay again in a league last week, but I ended up winning. I had to do a weird thing because normally I would have played Kyler in my Superflex spot and played Debo and not even touch Duvernay. But I was worried about Kyler not playing, which he didn't. So I had to put Debo on my bench and play Duvernay. And then if Kyler didn't play, I was playing Debo. Just with the way my lineups worked out. And so it worked out because Debo had a big game and I won anyway. But
yeah,
I was almost like, wow, I would have been better off just not.
Well, at least you didn't play Rondale Moore, so.
Oh, no, I played him in a league, a different league.
Shame on you.
Oh, hey, he's been doing good. Anyway, that'll do it. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you if you tuned in. Adios.